Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. I'm Crafty Kathy. I'm the owner and creator of Kids Vintage Farmhouse in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I'm so happy and thankful that you stopped in to craft and spend a little time with me today. You know, in the last few videos, I've been trying to clean up my outdoor space, like my patio area, and just make it a little bit nicer outside. I'm almost like doing spring cleaning. Well, every time when I walk out my front door, I look at my craft room porch because it's detached from the house and it's on the back of the garage. So literally when I walk out my front door across the pool, I can see the craft room. And the porch is always piled up. It's always got junk on it. It's inside and it spills out to the outside. So I told myself, you know what, let's clean this space up too. Let's just not buy anything else right now for a little while at the thrift stores, and let's just craft with what we have in our stash. And I want to challenge some of you guys to do that too. Let's do a little spring cleaning project. Just grab some stuff from mine's out there on a shelf, but just grab some of the stuff from there and let's make something out of it. I have two huge shelf fulls of stuff that are projects that I'm going to do someday. Well, this is my someday, and I really want to straighten up my area out there so I'm not embarrassed when people come over to my house. So anyways, with all that being said, if you guys are interested, at the end of this video, I'll show you what the outside looks like and the inside of my craft room. But with all that being said, let's get into the video. All right, guys, so we're going to start off with DIY number one, and it's this beautiful frame. This has been in my stash for many years. This thing is gorgeous, and I had to measure it because I need to fit a picture that's a 16 by 20 on the inside. You can see somewhere along the way this thing got wet. It's really nice and it's nicely put together. It has a tag on it that says Michaels, so I'm assuming either the picture itself came from Michaels or they had it framed there. I'm just going to go ahead and take the backing off so I can do my next step. Now, a lot of times with frames like these, my preference is to spray paint them because I feel that it's much easier. And I did try to do that. I took it outside and I hit it with the Rust-Oleum matte 2 times. And by the way, I am keeping this picture because it's good sturdy cardboard. But I took it outside and I hit it with the spray paint, and I realized that it had big cracks in the corners of it. If I had more time, I could have fixed it, but with this video needing to get out, I just didn't have time to do that. I wasn't worried about the sturdiness of it because it's not going to fall apart. It's just the look of it. I would have put wood glue in those cracks and I would have put clamps on it to hold it together. But instead, we're just going to kind of doctor it up because, like I said, it's still in good shape. It's not going to fall apart. And the paint color that I chose is Aviary. It is a gorgeous DIY paint color, and it's this green. It's one of their most popular colors. Now, I went over this frame and I gave it 2 coats. And I do want to show you the process of how I covered up those cracks. As I was going around and painting, I noticed on the bottom right-hand corner, a piece of the wood was just barely hanging. So I put some of my Titebond Quick and Thick wood glue there, and I pressed it in and just kept on painting. Now I know that it's going to take it just a little bit to dry, but it will not go anywhere. And so I went ahead and finished up with my 2 coats. I love to show you guys whenever I'm drying the DIY paint how it turns light again. It's the most beautiful and magical experience for me for some reason. Now here is how I doctored it up. After I had given it the 2 coats, I really hit those corners with that paintbrush. Now I probably did about an extra 3 times over the cracks, but only the cracks. I went over them about at least 2 to 3 times. Each time I'm just kind of dabbing my paintbrush down and around that crack, and the DIY paint is so thick, it's clay-based, and it's almost like creating a I don't know how you describe it. It's like it's filling up that area and it's camouflaging any crack that may be there. I took the frame outside, and instead of using Big Top, I just used my spray sealer. I like to use that Rust-Oleum matte clear because it's really easy for me to seal things. Now, this is the cardboard picture that had the lady on it. I just spray painted over her with white because I don't want the picture that I'm going to be using to show through. Now, if you guys have been around my channel for any length of time, you know back in the summer of 1922, my sister passed away after a long battle with cancer. And I was just going through Temu, this was a few weeks ago, and I saw this 16 by 20 canvas print. And the girl from the back looks like my sister. And when I saw it, I was like, I've got to have this. I've got to do something with this. I love it. And if you've ever shopped with them, you know that they're very reasonably priced. I just paid a few dollars for it. So what we're going to do is take this canvas, we're going to put it in this frame, and it's going to be like my tribute to her. You know, it's coming up on the anniversary of her death in June. And I've been thinking about her a lot lately, and it's just time for me to use my creative outlet of crafting to, I don't know, I guess just kind of deal with the loss of her. So first I tried to use my little glue stick here, and this is a permanent glue stick. I get them off of Amazon. They're around like $3.87 for 3 or 4 of them. Great deal. And they're permanent. It's not going to come up. But as I was putting that down, I thought, you know what? This is probably not going to be enough. So then I pulled out the liquid patina because it's not thick and goopy like Mod Podge is. And I knew that it would be much better at holding this canvas print. And so I just put it down like on the bottom part and made sure that it was straight and that it was adhered really good. I just kind of pressed it down with my hands, and I'm just going to give it a little bit so it can dry. Now, I had a little bit of overhang on the top and on the bottom, but that's no problem. I just used my little small scissors and just basically cut it off because I didn't want any extra, like, you know, hanging out in the back of my picture. I'm going to use the IOD stamps called Letterpress. I absolutely love these stamps. They have the most beautiful font on them. And what I thought to do, at first I was going to put like a scripture on there, but I wanted it to be just something simple and to the point. And so what I did was put the date that she passed away, which was 7/23/22. And in between there, I just put like a little dot, you know. And I thought that that was sufficient enough. I thought that that was going to be simple and to the point, and it means something to me, even though people that visit my home may have no idea what that means, but it means something to me. The edges of this weren't laying down like I wanted them to, so I took my Gorilla Spray adhesive and just sprayed the edges so that they would lay down better. And you know, lately I've been trying out these new Pentart paste, and to me, they feel exactly like Rub and Buff. I've been dying to try out this color. It's like a pearly white. It's called Chameleon. And I started off with just a little bit. I put it on the tip end of my finger, and I'm just going around and hitting kind of the high points and the areas that are like a beautiful scrolly pattern. And I just kind of wanted to see what this was going to look like because I've never used it before and I had no idea. And by the way, if you want to try out any of these Pentart paste, they're called, they're way cheaper than Rub and Buff. Also, to me, they're the same. Or if you want to try out the DIY paint, the IOD products, most of the things that you see me use on my channel comes from a store in New York called Milton's Daughter. and her address is www.miltonsdaughter.com, and let her know that Crafty Kathy sent you. Her name is Lori, and she's amazing at customer service. Now, by no means do you have to use these pastes the exact same way that I do. You may prefer a little less, and you may prefer a little more. Now, I did notice that this white pearly color, you do have to use a little bit more of it to get it to pop like the bronze does. The bronze, of course, is my favorite. But I really liked the way that this looked, and it gave it almost like an angelic appearance. I can't really describe it other than saying it was just like a beautiful angelic appearance to my picture. I liked the white color so well, I thought what I need to do is pull out my DIY white wax and just wax the whole thing up a little bit more, because I really liked that muted type tone against this aviary. So I use my wax brush and I go like in a circular motion. I put it on my picture and then I use a lint-free rag to just wipe back the excess. And I went around the whole picture and did this. And you know I couldn't help myself. I pulled out the bronze because I thought, okay, it just needs a little bit more, just a little shimmer. And you just do this to the way that you like it, especially if it's going to be in your house. Make it what you want it to be. So that's kind of how I finished this picture off, and it just turned out so lovely. And like I said, it means something special to me, and I couldn't be any more happier with this piece. The second DIY is absolutely amazing. We're going to switch directions and we're going to work on this birdhouse. I've had it in my stash for a while. It's got a $2 tag on it from my local thrift store. And I'm going to use one of these little birds that I pick up at Dollar General. Now, they have these every year. They're only $1 and they are great to craft with and work with. The first thing that I know I need to do is get him put on the top of this birdhouse, and so I'm just going to use some of my wood glue and stick him up there. I fought with this bird the whole time that I was trying to paint this birdhouse because I didn't have time to let it sit and dry. And I knew if I put hot glue on it, it might hold it for a few minutes, but then it's probably not going to stay as long as I need it to. So what I'm doing here is going over my birdhouse in the color called Apothecary. It's also a very popular DIY paint color. It's just this beautiful, like a bluish green color, and it's just so light and gorgeous. But I went ahead and gave it 2 coats, and you'll see I put a little bit of hot glue down on his feet, and so I'm still trying to fight with him. I like the blue color of the bird, but I decided just to go ahead and paint him Apothecary also. I thought it would look really good, and that's just kind of the mood that I was in at the moment. If you're enjoying this video so far, I would like to ask you to please hit the like button. That really helps me out on YouTube. Also, if you would, leave me a comment, even if it's just an emoji. It helps my channel out tremendously. And I did notice lately that in the analytics, only half the people that watch my videos are subscribed. So you may think that you're subscribed, but somewhere along the way, YouTube could have unsubscribed you. So if you would, just please double check on that red button and make sure you're subscribed. There's a drop-down menu beside it, and when you hit that drop-down menu, you can pick how you want to see my videos. You can pick all or some of them, or there's another category, but I can't remember. But if you would do those things for me, I would greatly appreciate it. When my birdhouse dried, I decided to do some inlays. We're going to put them on with Big Top, and we're going to use the Petite Fleur Pink. In my last video, I used the red version of this, and this is the exact same one, except for it's a beautiful pink color. It's very shabby chic and cottage looking, and I think it's going to be perfect on this birdhouse. Now, I get a lot of comments of people saying that they're afraid to try these inlays, but I promise you, if you just take a small piece off of one and try it out, you'll be hooked because these are so beautiful. It's actually paint, and when you put it into your project, the paint just comes off on your project, and it's gorgeous every time. Now, the last video, I did use Big Top to apply it for the first time, and I actually like to use Big Top better to apply it than to use the paint. So here I just went through, I'm looking at the ones that I think I might like and cutting them out. We're going to start off with this one that looks like a little circle, and I've already cut the middle portion of it out. What you do is you put your Big Top down usually first, but I kind of did it backwards for some reason. I put my Big Top down, and you just you use a mister and you mist that inlay. You lay it down paint first into your project, and you can always tell which side actually has the paint. Then you use your hands to smooth it out so that there's no wrinkles. And then after that, you just grab a baby wipe and I blot it because that way it's wiping up the excess Big Top, and it's also pushing that paint inlay down into the surface. Now, I had taken my bird off at this point because he just kept coming off every time I moved it. So here I just added a little bit more extra hot glue and put him back on. When your paint inlay is almost dry, I would say mine was probably 90% dry. I used the mister once again, and I misted it, and then I blotted it again with my baby wipe and very slowly just took the inlay off. Now, the inlays can be used up to 3 times each piece, so I lay it down where the paint is facing up so it can dry, and then I just put it back away. Here we're going to do the same thing on the sides. I'm going to use this longer piece right on the middle, and I know that there's a raised area right there, but it's okay because it'll still work on those raised areas. I realized as I'm editing this, I put way too much Big Top, and it kind of pulled up in the middle part, and it gave me a little bit of trouble, but it's nothing that bothered me because I'm going to be using this in my own home decor, and I'm not going for perfect. I just want something that has like a shabby chic cottage feel, and I definitely got it with this piece. So I just went through and did the same process. I laid it down, I misted it, and then blotted it with the baby wipe. And you see me using my scissors here to make a cut so it would kind of lay down just a little bit better in the center. Now, when it was about 90% dry, I misted it again and started to take it off after I blotted it with my baby wipe. I slowly started to peel it up and realized it looked good until I got to the center part. Now, I didn't realize this at the time because I just saw it in the video that I used too much Mod Podge and it pooled right there. So really the paint had nothing to stick to because I had put too much Mod Podge, if that makes sense. But right here, the way that I remedied that was to just place it back on there and let it go ahead and get almost dry again before I fooled with it. I flipped it around to the opposite side, and you can't really see me very good right here. I was trying to be careful because of that doggone bird, but I put my big top down, and then I misted it once again, laid it down, used the baby wipe. And then I'm going to let it dry, and I'm going to pull it back up in just a moment. By this time, I needed to go ahead and take that other side off, and I didn't even care if it didn't stick all the way. I had already made up my mind I was just going to take it off, and I did. And you can see in the center there, it still doesn't look bad, but it would have looked better if I wouldn't have put that much big top down. So I just placed another one down kind of at the bottom, and then I went to the little neck down there of the birdhouse, and I'm going to lay these little single flowers across there. Aren't those cute? And they're in a pattern where they're kind of catty corner from each other and up and down. So I did the same process. And I wanted to let you know that there is no reason in this world to be afraid of the inlays. Once you actually try them, everyone says this. They all say, I can't believe it was that easy and that I thought that it was going to be so difficult. Everybody I've ever talked to has said that. And each piece, it's the same thing over and over. You just do the same thing. Now, there's two ways that you can seal these inlays. You can go over it with the big top, but remember it's paint, so you have to be very careful and just kind of barely brush over it with your big top, or you can take it outside and spray it with like a sealer like that Rust-Oleum matte clear that I like to use. However, whichever way you want to do it is totally up to you. I've done both ways, and both ways work perfectly. I was bound and determined to get one of these inlays to work right there in the middle of that upper top of the birdhouse. So that second time, I did put a lot less of the big top down. I misted my inlay, laid it down, and then I blotted it with my baby wipe. And then I gave it a little bit of time to get about 90% dry. And while that part was drying, I just took off the parts where all those little flowers were at the bottom, and they turned out so precious. I was in such a mode of putting these inlays on everything in sight, I thought, I'm going to put it on the bird. So I did. I put one across the back and then one kind of on his chest just to see what it looked like. And I thought maybe some of y'all might be wondering if it works on things like that. And I thought, why not let me try it out on the channel so we can all watch it together and see what works and what don't work. Now here I'm reusing those flowers that I had put on the upper part of the birdhouse. I just cut them down individually and did that exact same process around the bottom. And I thought to myself, even if they're not that vibrant, it's going to be okay. We're just testing it out. Now, you can use the inlays, like I said, up to 3 times each, but just know that each time you use them, it gets a little bit more faded, and that's because you're taking off each layer of paint every time you use it. Now, the little bird didn't turn out looking bad at all, but you really couldn't see it a whole lot either. So, I guess you could say it looks pretty if that's what you were going for, but one way or another, it didn't really matter to me, to be honest. Now, here's the part that I really like. I put my bird up there once again. This is like the 80th time I've had to put the little critter up there. And I'm using that color called Chameleon. And it's that Pent Art paste that's, you know, like a pearly white color. And you can see I'm just using my fingers. I'm going all inside his feathers because I wanted them just to have that little glitz that happens, and it's really pretty. It's like a pearlescent white, and it's really pretty. But for me, it just wasn't enough white, so I thought, okay, we're going to do it up now. So I put a little bit of the DIY white wax on my finger and went all around the bird. Now, they don't ever say that there's a certain way that you have to put the waxes on. So if it's easy to put on with your finger, I say do what you like. And I think this thing turned out so pretty.
Well, I wanna take a ride in the wheelbarrow in your mind. Take me all around to the thinking places where you spend your time. Ain't no place I'd rather go. You're a funny little critter and I love you so, man. I wanna take a ride in the wheelbarrow in your mind. I come and sit down with me in a rocking chair. Coffee pot is nice and hot. We can sit in our underwear. Tell me about the dreams you had last week, swimming all around with the fish in the sea. Come and sit down with me in a rocking chair.
Now we're on our third and last DIY of the day. Now this one's going to be another picture frame. I have so many picture frames that I need to work with. I got this one at Goodwill for $3.99. It is a 20 by 24 and I love the picture in it. It looks very shabby chic and cottage to me. However, I don't like that brown frame. So we're going to work on the frame. We're going to use the mold called Dainty Flourishes, and I use this mold a lot. I'm using the pieces that I just pointed to. I'm making 2 of each one. If you've never used a mold before, they're super easy. You can use them with resin or you can use clay, which is what I'm going to be using. I take some cornstarch and I apply it pretty liberally in this one because Dainty Flourishes has small little intricate like leaf patterns on it. It's not leaves, but it kind of reminds me of like a scrolly leaf, you know. So I put a lot and then you just kind of get the excess off. I take my clay and I kind of warm it up in my hands. And my favorite clay to use is the DOS clay. Well, I really like the IOD clay, but I don't have any. So I'm using just what I have in my stash. And the kind that I'm using here is called, I think, Creative Paper Clay or something. It's okay, but it's not my choice. And like I said, I just went through and made 2 of each of these scrolly patterns. And when you flip over your mold after you've got it placed, you just let gravity do the work. The gravity will actually make it kind of start to fall out, and then you can stick your finger there and help it along. Now this is the second time that I'm making this mold, and like I said, the Dainty Flourishes sometimes gives me trouble because it is so intricate and has those little small details. Actually, sometimes when I pull out the Dainty Flourishes, if it falls apart, it's totally okay because you can put it back together on your project and you can't tell that it's, you know, apart at all. And there's times, like if it's a little difficult for me to get a mold out, that I'll actually take my X-Acto knife and just make a clean cut on it so I can put it in pieces. That way I can place it back together on my project. So after I got all 4 of my molds made, it's time to put them on our frame. And that's a way to really jazz up a frame or make it something really special, is by adding molds to it. Now here I pulled the camera back a little bit and I'm showing you this is exactly how the molds are going to go. And what I did was just use a little bit of the Titebond Quick and Thick and a very small, like detailed paintbrush, because it made it a lot easier for me just to kind of move the paint or the glue around. It doesn't take much of the glue, and what you do after you put it on is leave it alone overnight and let it dry. And here's a perfect example of what I was talking about when I do them in pieces sometimes. This piece to the right, I actually cut in half because it was just easier for me to get it the way that I needed it to go if I cut it in half. And you can maneuver the clay ones especially, like move them in any direction that you want and make them what you want. And you just use a little bit of water and your finger to smooth out any spots that you need to kind of touch up. Now here we're doing the top part and we're doing the exact same thing as we did on the bottom. And I have cut this one in pieces like I told you that I did the other one, because to me it just makes it so much easier to get it where I want it to be. I'm going to speed this last one up because I'm doing the exact same thing as I did before. I'm just putting my wood glue on the back and placing it on the frame where I want it to go. And I did leave this alone overnight and let it dry. Now the next day when I started on this, I decided to use the color crinoline. It's kind of like a beigey off-white color and it's gorgeous. And I'm going to show you how you work around these molds so that you don't damage them or anything. But if you've left them alone overnight and just let them dry, it's really no problem at all. Now, I just went over this whole area and you see that on the sides of this frame, it's got like scroll work. And so I had to kind of dab to get it down inside all of those little grooves. And you'll notice too on this frame that I kept the glass in. And the reason why I did that is because I couldn't get the back off of this one. It just had too much going on back there. And it was framed really nice looking, so I didn't want to destroy it. It's a lot easier when you can get the glass out and paint your piece. You don't have to be as careful. Now, I was trying to be a little bit careful because, I mean, I can get the paint off of the glass, but it's just another extra step that you have to do. So I just try to be careful and not get much of that paint on that glass. Now, when I went around the parts that were the molds, I just used my paintbrush, and you see there's so many details and like different bends and turns on these molds. I found it was so much easier just to use a cheap little chippy brush. It's actually those basting brushes that I get from the Dollar General store, and I love to use them as my chippy brushes. And I just was using that paintbrush and kind of dabbing it over the mold so that it would get in all those little intricate details of the mold. Now on the sides of this frame, I did that dabbing motion because it creates a gorgeous texture, almost like it's just like a little bit of a raised texture, and I think that's so pretty. So I did that on the outer portion of the frame, and the rest of it, I just went over it like normal. Now I did give this frame 2 coats of paint. Another challenge that you have when you leave the glass in is to get on that very inside of the frame. And so the way that I do that is use a very small detailed brush and just do the best that I can and try not to get too much of the paint on the glass. I think the easiest way to get the paint off of the glass is you wait until it's dry and then you go around with like a razor blade. But at this point, I still wasn't finished with all of my painting. I had to go around and make sure that I had that very inner corner, and I give myself a lot of grace. If there's still just a little bit of that brown showing here and there, I don't care, because to me, it just kind of adds to the look of it. with a little bitty bit of that brown peeking out, it looks great. And you can see here a little closer up how I went on that outside portion and just kind of dabbed my paintbrush up and down to create that gorgeous texture that's on the outer ring of the frame. Now my frame is actually done with the painting process. This frame is a 20 by 24, and I am a little bit further away, but just so that you can see the whole process, we're going to use my favorite color, that bronze color from Pentart Paste, and we're also going to try just a little bit of the chameleon to see what that looks like. The easiest way I find to use this product is just to get a little bit of it out like I have on this little dowel here, and I just put it on whatever. Like here I put it on the top of a box so that I can easily run my finger over it. And you see I don't have a whole bunch on my finger. I always start out small and just lightly applying it. And if I really like the way that it looks, then I go crazy with it. And y'all know I go crazy with it most of the time. I'm actually going to let a little bit of music play and let you guys just enjoy watching me go around and put this on here. But all I'm doing is just adding the bronze where I like it, and you just add however much you like. Now I decided to put a little bit of the bronze color on that second area that kind of looks like a rope to me. I don't know. So I put the product on 2 fingers instead of 1. And you see I'm not doing anything special. I'm literally just running the tip of my finger over this, and it is so gorgeous. Guys, let me know in the comments what you think about this project, and I would love to know which one is your favorite project. It's kind of hard for me to pick because the one that is the picture that reminds me of my sister is very near and dear to my heart. And then I really, really like the little birdhouse, and this picture is right up my alley because it's so shabby chic / cottage feel, and it's going to look so good upstairs in my hallway. I also went in that very inner corner, and I did that very lightly. I just very, very lightly went across it. And here I am at the top part of the picture, and I'm going over the little scrolly patterns that I applied. But you see what I mean by when I say that the molds just add so much to a picture? Because when I started, this picture frame was really nothing special. It was just a picture frame. It was pretty, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't what it is now. And I absolutely am just crazy over that bronze color. It looks good with black. It looks good with this cream color. It's like it goes with any color. And if you feel like you did a little bit too much on the wax, like there's a few spots where I felt like I maybe put a little bit too much of the bronze, I just go over that spot with my brush and just kind of dab over it, and it really calms it down. Now we're going to try a little bit of the white color that's called Chameleon. It just gives it a little pearl essence. And I didn't really do too much of that on this picture because the bronze was enough and it kind of spoke for itself. So I just kind of went around and added like a little glitz to it, you could say. As you know, I never took the glass out of this one, which created a crazy glare when I was trying to film it. So what I did was just cut my lights out and have just a very little bit of light on this one because I was afraid that the glare was going to be so much that you couldn't even see it. Now in a minute, I'm going to let you guys see my outside tornado and my craft room. But just in case you can't stay and you have to go, don't forget to subscribe. And if you are subscribed, just double check and make sure they haven't unsubscribed you because they've been doing that. And please leave me a comment. and hit that like button. Here is the side of my house and my ugly green pool, which in about 2 weeks, hopefully it's going to be not a pond anymore. And here is my craft room. As you can see, we built it onto the back of our garage. And I've got so many old vintage things, like these old vintage saws. And then if you'll look, my craft room has siding on the front of it, or actually wrapped all the way around it. And then at the bottom here we have barn wood, and my husband placed old objects on that barn wood, like he's got an old saw there that was his great-grandpa's, a bear trap, this old kettle and this old barrel, the old rake, and the old washboard. We've just got all this stuff going on because, like I said, it's kind of a vibe, okay? And then here I have one of my beautiful little statues, and he's got fake flowers in there, but I think he's so cute. He's a little country boy. And this is my old Ringer style wash machine that a buddy of ours gave to me. It's the same guy who gave us the old Victrola phonograph that I showed you a few weeks ago. Now, these are the shelves that I talked about, where there's about 4 or 5 shelves, and they are full mostly of my thrifted items. And this is the stuff that I really want to go through. It's not that it's totally disorganized. You see, I've got candlesticks, a chicken section, bird section, and I just have all these different, little things in their place. My Snoopy cup my daughter got me. And I keep my spray paint in this little cube here. Now, my plan was to pull these 2 shelves apart so I could stick the cube in between them, but I couldn't do it by myself. I needed my husband's help. But you see, I've got a lot of bird cages. These are small shelves. I have many little houses here, and I've got more candlesticks, an old-timey clock that I got from a vintage store. There's a lot of stuff here for me to work with. I look at it sometimes and I'm like, I can't find anything to work with, but I'm just challenging myself to try to do better. Now, this is inside my craft studio, and you see I have like tools at the door. I have all of my flowers are I have a huge like cube of foam that is it's inside one of those old milk jug crates, like that you used to put the milk jugs in. And I got all of my flowers stuck in the foam, and it's got wheels on the bottom so it rolls around. Now, up here on top of my craft furniture, what I was showing is an area that I really want to work on soon. This is my beautiful furniture that Salter sent me, and I'm so glad that I have it. I think it's so pretty, and it's very nice to have furniture, especially for craft stuff, to put your craft stuff. But look at this overflow I have. It's in here in the room. I have stuff hanging up here on hangers. I have more shelves. You can see I just have a whole mess of all kinds of stuff, guys, and I know a lot of y'all are like me. So let's just challenge ourselves to try to use our own stash that we have and see what we can come up with. Just give it a try. But I guess I've done enough blabbing for today. So guys, I will see you back here. Don't forget, every Monday and Thursday, 7:30, because we're on summer hours. And I'll see you back here, Lord willing, and that creek don't rise.